Hey, folks, what do you think about energy? We need it every single day. We run on energy. My guest here today is launching a brand new book, Know Thyself, Love Thyself. How you doing today, Mike Wandler?
Great, Kary. Thanks for having me.
Listen, man, I'll tell you what, first time I ever heard you speak, I was in a strategic coach meeting. I thought, this guy has it going on. You were talking about literally working with the biggest machines in the world. We're going to show your website here in a second. But, Mike, what do you do before we get into this book? What do you do?
Yeah, so I manufacture parts for the biggest machines on Earth. So drag lines, shovels, earth moving equipment. I started in this when I was 14 years old. It's a second generation family company. 60 years old this year. L&H Industrial Inc. is what you see up on the screen there. So we repair and manufacture parts for the biggest machines on Earth.
Wow. And I mean, I've heard what, even some rocket parts or something?
Yeah, so the NASA crawler transporter that moved the space shuttle out to the launch site, we upgraded it for the SLS rocket. They needed to upgrade it to having more carrying capacity for the space launch system. So we manufactured all the parts for underneath that. Our crews went down to Kennedy Space Center and took the old ones off and refit everything and put all new parts on there. And we continue working in the space on the heavy end, the mobile equipment side.
Well, your website is beautiful, first of all, whoever did that. But,
Yeah,
you
Brittany
know,
and the team, they do a great job.
oh, man. Uh, I've met some of your team. I think they're fascinating people, but you can't run this type of company with this type of stakes, let's call it, without having a good team put together. And that's
Yes.
really where this book comes to life. You said, look, Kary, before we write a book on nuclear energy and become the thought leaders, which you really already are, but before you do that second book, you wanted to do a first book about personal energy.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the personal energy book. This is what I've really learned in my whole life, but really over the past, I guess, 6 years, I've been focused on mental fitness and mental resilience and how it all fits together and getting into flow and it's been life changing for me and my family and now my people. We brought it into L&H with where it's available to 250 of our employees and their families, right? So their significant others and their kids, and it's so transformational for me. And then we kept repeating that. So I started it, and I was getting these incredible results. I mean, I've done a lot of big things in my life, and nothing more impactful than mental fitness and just focusing on working, knowing thyself and loving thyself. And it's repeated enough with all of my employees that I thought I had to stop and write it down.
That's
Get
the
all the
truth.
thoughts collected, have it written down, leave a trail of crumbs for my employees and my family and anybody else that can use it. And like you said, getting the team organized. I couldn't do any of this without my team of 250 people at L&H, and we have another 250 overseas. And they're the secret sauce. And how you hire and attract and retain them is the most compelling thing. So that's what this is focused on, and it's all about the people and their families and having them know themselves and love themselves, make sure they're a great fit.
Love
And
that.
we're the right fit for them, right? They're the right fit for us, and we're building a tribe together. So, and
Mm.
my end goal is to get everybody in flow, which
Yes.
does end up being your heaven on earth, in my opinion.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that because you geek out on Mihai Csikszentmihalyi and Stephen Kotler. I
Oh yeah,
do too. I
yeah,
do too. And, you're 500% more productive when you're in flow. So, I don't think people realize this. Like,
right,
your people could literally just work Mondays and you could
yes,
do just as much as a normal company Monday through Friday.
right.
How is that even possible?
Yeah, you're unbeatable, right? So we we see it our entire lives. We don't even realize we're seeing it. And the one I like to refer back to is the Chicago Bulls of the 90s.
Mm,
They came out and they were just dominating for years. And
yes.
that is always because that group of people were in group flow.
They knew where they were gonna be with the past. Dennis Rodman knew, "I can dive out of the out of bounds, and Michael Jordan will be there, and Scottie Pippen, and boom, boom, boom."
Yep, and they were just working the plays, and that took a great leader to put those plays together, right? So to me, the group flow is as much about the great leader that's orchestrating that group of people than it is about the people themselves. But I do think the people are in flow themselves, and then some thoughtful leader has put them together and lets them have the space to play and do all of that.
And
So
it's and it can't really be a hierarchical company, because then you're really trusting in rules and guidelines rather than each other. I think your subtitle's amazing, but it talks about relationships in
yeah.
there too. So, talk to us about flow and relationships, and like, what does a normal week look like where you're seeing flow happen in relationships?
Yeah, so the flow, the relationships, I think that comes back down to the mission, vision, values, and you have to have somebody that cares about your mission and your vision and your values of your tribe or your team or your company, in order for them to drop into flow. Because if they do not, if they don't like what's going on or what they're doing, they're not going to be pushing themselves harder, and you have to push yourself a little bit harder than you ever have before to drop into flow.
Mm,
If you don't like what you're doing, you can drop into flow. Stephen Kotler can teach you how to drop into flow if you're not in your unique abilities, but it's harder, right? And
yeah.
shared mission, vision, values, and knowing what your unique abilities are, that helps you drop into flow sustainably and create a heaven on earth.
So
It's
it's almost like these core values that I'm hearing you say, they're like guardrails, but they're not gonna tell you what to do every single day. Like, they keep you on the road, but you guys are evolving. I've seen Stacy and your other people. There's, like, this innovation to it too.
Yeah, innovation is extremely important for L&H. For me, I like to innovate, right? I'm a quick start, so I tend to hire people around me that like to innovate. So we've got a whole company full of innovative people that are innovating their own jobs all the time, and they've got they got the latitude to do that. We want them to do that, right? We fund that that innovation. So I think innovating's, it's our thing. Not everybody does it, right? Because it is expensive to innovate all the time. It's a particular company pick. So
Mm,
anybody that wouldn't like to innovate probably wouldn't have much fun with us. It would drive them crazy.
interesting.
Now, I
S
might innovate more than 95% of my people. So you still need some follow through people in there
Yes.
to keep your company running and to make the money day to day. And you have to have rules, right? Even the basketball has rules,
Yeah.
but people that are innovating figure out how to push those and how to still innovate within those rules.
Oh, that's good, that's good. What is this website that's being popped up here? Honestly Better Fitness? Is that what it's
Yeah,
called?
honestly, better fitness. Yeah, it's honestly better mental fitness. So Travis and I got on there in order to get because especially in the heavy industrial world, a lot of people don't. Mental fitness. Nah, I'm good. My mind's fine. You don't have to mess with me. So in order to make it accessible for my people, Travis and I and Paul started sitting down and doing podcasts where we would sit and talk about mental fitness. Travis would tell me what mental fitness was, and mental resilience, and we would go back and forth on the experiences I've had to put it out there to all of my tribe that this is okay, right? It's approachable and it's powerful, right? If you're not completely happy with the way your life is, you can change it, and it's not as hard as you think it is. So that's a number of podcasts that we've done and some other resources
Wow.
that somebody could go in there and do for free. Again, I was going to set it up for my people, and I thought, well, it's no more expensive to release it to the world. So it's on there, it's free, and there's some great content. We've had a lot of feedback from many of our people saying it's changed their lives.
Let's take a look here. I have the website right here. This is very interesting. So essentially what we're looking at here is the episodes, and like you said, this is kind of your gift back to the world.
Right.
It's so weird, you know, a lot of people talk about mental health,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that we're talking about that finally, and that the stigma is going away. But
Yeah.
you almost take it to the next level and say, I don't want to just talk about mental health. I want to talk about mental fitness.
Yeah.
Is that like a further level? What do you think?
Yeah, it is a further level. So the mental fitness, for one, the word is more approachable, right? And the reason it's more approachable is we think about physical fitness, right? If you want to continue doing something, just keep doing it. Or if you want to, increase your muscles, go work out, go
Mm,
work with a coach. This is the same. You can do the same thing with your brain. So if you want to have a positive life, go work with a coach. Or you don't have to work with a coach like Travis, but you can work with a coach like Travis. That's the quickest way there. But get on here. You can learn what's possible for mental fitness and just start diving down it. So you work on your mind as well as your muscles. And especially as you get older, I'm 56 now. So you need to keep working on your mental fitness to keep it strong. Just like I would need to keep working on my muscles. I have
yeah.
to keep working out to keep my muscles fit. You need to do the same thing with your brain. And we're going to be living longer and longer, so it becomes important. But
Well,
there is a thought that crisis, right? Everybody goes to mental fitness
yeah.
for crisis, but
Yeah, while you're getting that, I'm going to show the Amazon page here, because you have this quote right here. You say, why do humans wait until a crisis hits to mine the treasures of their inner strength? Dude, that's deep. That's deep thoughts. But that's kind of what you're talking about, right?
yes, it is.
Mm, love it. Love it. But it's true. You know, we were just at a conference where we saw there was a speaker there who had survived the miracle on the Hudson. I don't know if you were in that session. I was in that one. I think,
No.
yeah, I think the guy's name was Dave, maybe Sanderson or something. But I love what Captain Sully says. There's this quote that he says where he says to Katie Couric on the interview, he says, for 42 years, I've been making daily deposits in the bank of education and experience. And on January 11th, 2011, life decided I needed to make a big withdrawal. So in other words, you can't wait. Sully could not wait until the bird strike hit to be like, oh crud, I'm gonna like develop as a pilot. And that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, you keep working on it. So enter this for crisis. Most of us do, but then don't stop there. Start working on performance. If you
Mm,
work with a mental fitness coach on performance, you get further and further away from crisis. Uh,
that's interesting.
yeah,
So
and
so crisis is where we see mental fitness start, but then at L&H, you're basically performance.
yeah, as I brought Travis in, everybody started working with him on crisis. I'm getting divorced. My child's, suicidal or depressed, and that's what they were using him for, because they're like, well, I don't want to use up his time. His time's valuable. I'm like, no, I want you to use his time. I'll
Wow.
start working on performance. So what in your life would you like to change if you could change one thing? And what I found is the further you get up into performance and flow, the less crisis you have, because you're getting the mental fitness, which is the baseline of understanding what mental fitness is. And then you next work on mental resilience, which is if somebody comes in and gives you a bad look or says something terrible to you that would knock you over before. Now it doesn't knock you over. Maybe it still knocks you over, but only for a little bit, not for months or years.
I love that analogy. I remember when we were meeting and you were writing the book, you used that analogy, but we all have that where you see it on social media today. And I don't know if people just have their phones everywhere or what, but they're capturing like the craziest stuff where someone does give somebody a look and they're just ready to like kill the person.
Yes.
Right? And what is in your book, you talk about, like, how maybe they haven't worked through that trauma and that was a trigger.
Yep. They have the triggers, and I outlined some of my triggers that I didn't even know I had in the book as an example of this. But we all have these triggers, and some of it's triggers that we don't even remember why we're actually, I think most of them are triggers that we don't remember why we're being triggered. So they're built up over the years, and you can very quickly be taught how to recognize those. And I recognize them by, oh, what, I'm getting tensed up here, I'm getting mad, I'm getting sad. You notice that, and now for me, I've done it so much, it's like, oh, this is neat, there's something here, now I can work on it. When you first start doing it, you'll be like, I don't want anything to do with that, right? I'm just going to go hide, I'm going to tamp that back down. And the problem with that is it squirts out at the worst possible time. So you don't want to tamp it back down and pretend like it's not there, like the trigger's not there, because then when you get under a real pressure, it'll pop out. And that's when you least want it to pop out, right?
That's really interesting. You're onto something. So, it's almost like I hear you saying that we're part of the system, so we can't objectively look at ourselves. But what your book does, Know Thyself, Love Thyself, is it gives us a place to stand and a place to, like, objectively look and say, "Why am I getting triggered?"
Right.
versus just reaction.
Yes. Yeah. You figure out why you're getting triggered, and then you go in and do a reset or let it go. And this is where a Travis Ramsey, somebody like him, is amazing at helping you do that. You can teach yourself to do it. It's much faster to have a real pro walk you through it and show you how to do it. It's a little different for everybody else, right? What worked for me might not work for you. They might need to give you a few different tricks or tools. But the important thing is you can reset it. You're just because you react poorly. You see a lot of people that have road rage. Uh,
Yes.
they don't want road rage, right? They don't want to be pissed off the whole time they're driving to work. So they can be in control of that, right? They can reset that. There's something that's happened in their past that's causing that, and they get to decide whether they keep road raging, or whether they let it go and they don't have that anxiety and stress anymore.
Wow. Wow. This is this is big stuff. So I think, man, I'm even though I'm the publisher, I think I'm getting it big time today. So, a practical roadmap for optimizing performance through mental fitness, cultivating healthy relationships, and creating your own heaven on earth. And so, heaven on earth, you believe, is group flow. And you've studied it, I've studied it, but it's like in the neurochemicals, what's happening in your brain is literally the feel good neurochemicals.
Yeah, you're so this goes back to the addiction piece, right? So I
Yes,
don't do any drugs, but
right.
I'm on more drugs than anybody else because I'm letting my body do it for me, right? So
Ah,
you see
now
a small child and they're just bouncing off the walls, and you're like, oh, they're on crack, right? Well, they're getting the best drugs that your body can put out. And if you'll live that clean life and clean in the brain and not be putting chemicals in your body that makes your body not deliver those, you can get a lot of that back, a lot of that spirit and a lot of that spunk back, and it'll deliver those at a higher level. So part of it's what you ingest, right? If you're going to do cocaine, then your body's going to stop giving you what the cocaine's giving you. It's going to say, oh, you got that, I'm going to quit doing that. And then part of it is just deciding that what level of joy do you want to have. You're born with a set point, a level of joy. You can reset that higher or lower if you choose to. You don't have to stay at that step point. Uh,
wow. Talk to me. I've never had this thought before. You're blowing my mind here. W- How does gratitude relate? In other
Yeah,
words,
I think,
you're a big gratitude guy. I'm a big gratitude guy. Does gratitude what? It brings it to mind? What does it do?
yeah, I think that the human brain is programmed, wired to be negative. We love the negative. This is why we watch the news and any, the blood in the streets with a gleam in our eye. That we are automatically going to go to the negative, and that programs us, right? So you're programming your brain the whole time to be negative.
Mm,
The thoughts are negative typically because they're scared of things. So if you'll just sit down and list out positive things at night before you go to bed, what happened today that's powerful and positive, and what do you want to happen tomorrow that's powerful and positive. And even at the beginning of a meeting, so you tend to go into meetings and you want to fix something, right? So something has to be broken and bad. Well, I started listing out, let's list out our wins at the beginning of the meeting, because there's always 10 wins to one or two things that need worked on.
mhm.
And if you start out with that and you start identifying these 10 things that are going great that we should celebrate, or 10 people that we should celebrate, even better, right? Uh, and then okay, now we've got this one or two problems we need to work on. Then it puts it in context. But that whole time you're programming yourself. So if you spend your time in the negative thinking, that's what you're programming your brain to think is negative. And then the whole world feels negative, and it's not. It's not. And now maybe it is for somebody, but for most people, they've got more positives than negatives, and they're convincing themselves that they don't.
Wow, that is so good. What do you hope happens with this book? Because I know you could have gone with the low-hanging fruit and said, "Look, we're gonna write the nuclear energy book first, and, we already got a company that's crushing it." But you kinda went back and gave the world this gift of this first book. What do you hope happens with it?
Yeah, I hope that all of my tribes use it to get into organizing and getting into flow. I
Mm,
hope that it puts a calling card out to attract and retain talent in my tribes. And then I hope the rest of the world takes it and runs with it too, because as you said earlier, we'll be walking away from other people. They'll wonder how we're doing it. How is LNH getting that done? Well, we got in flow because we cared about our people, and we got them into mental fitness, and we figured out their unique abilities, and we have a shared mission, vision, value, and
mm.
dropping them into flow. That's unbeatable, and it creates this heaven on earth. And I think that I'm big into collaboration too. So my collaborators now, if they wonder how we're doing it, they've got a roadmap to follow us and do the same thing, which will just make the human race a better race, right? We'll just be better to each other. And I do believe that until people know and love themselves, they can't very well know and love other people. So it's
That's deep.
important. I think
That's deep.
it's the problem with the human condition.
Yeah,
People that I see being nasty to me or to others, they usually hate themselves.
yeah.
That's where it all stems from.
Wow. Wow. This is good. Well, I can't wait for the next book to come out because I don't know anything about nuclear energy, but this book though, I saw you at Coach Con last week in Tennessee. I believe I met your wife.
Yep, Jerry was there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but you
And
were
she was great, and I've met Stacy, some of your team as well, and it just seems to me like you're at this point. I mean, what, 60 years in the business, your company, second generation. You got a lot of things going for you, but I'm really glad you chose to give back and say, you know what, we are going to attract talent. And I would tell anybody who's watching this, I mean, you stack up another company next to yours. I mean, who wouldn't want to work there? Like, who takes care of their people and says, we're going to connect you with a mental fitness coach because we care about you?
yeah.
That's pretty rare. Are you finding that you are getting really good people because you are choosing to care about the whole person?
Yeah, I swear I have the best people in the world, and part of it is because of this. Part of it is a lot of other things we've done, but I think this is a summation of what's really working. And And you mentioned the mental fitness coach, Travis. He's not only a good coach, he's an amazing coach, right? So bringing top level talent that your people can work with to become mentally fit and work on performance and resilience. And an important piece in there and I would encourage everybody that has employees to do this. Don't get them because we had mental coaches the whole time. Nobody wanted to use them, right? They were on ADP and nobody wanted to reach out to them. The percentage use was like under 1%. It was by 0.1%. We have about 40% of our people using Travis. And the key there is it's about them and their family. So I always encourage them. This isn't about L&H first. This is about you and your family first. Get you and your family right. And I did that myself. So when I first brought Travis in, it was my wife Jerry and I working with him, and then I brought him to my family. And that's important because you have to make sure the family's okay, and then they can bring the whole family with them on this journey. Because that's who you're hiring, right? You're just not hiring the employee. You're hiring the employee, and their family comes with them. So that is where it became really important to allow Travis to work with their entire family, not just the employee.
That's fantastic. Well, we got Salvador saying he's looking forward to reading it. Of course, our mutual friend Chad Jenkins, loves this. So I think this is a big thing. Of Zora, I mean, we got a lot of people. Look at this. You know Zora? I don't know any other CEO who's written a book about mental fitness and is so knowledgeable about it and committed to it. So
thank you.
Hey, man. Good job. But no, really proud of you. And I'll fight you for the best team. I feel like our team is really good.
You should.
No, they're weighing in. They're all watching. Like our team's watching this. They're excited. But Mike, you've enriched my life, and I know that your company's doing good work in the world. But then you're building teams, and now your impact just went exponential. By creating a book in the world. So we're going to drop all those links in here, but I would encourage everybody to get this book. It's a good read. It's a quick read, and it will change your life because it'll change your mind. So Mike, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Kary. It's been amazing working with you. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Take care, folks. We'll see you.